Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for watching this video. So if you haven't checked out my last video, I uploaded it yesterday. It's where I talk about all the TV shows that I watched in 2020. You can also check out my Bookstagram and Twitter if you want to see extra content. So today's video is very exciting. I really enjoyed making this video and compiling all the books, because I'm gonna talk about the most anticipated releases of 2021. So I got my smoothie. You can get any beverage you want. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be a long video, so just let's get right into it. Now, I mentioned this multiple times in my videos. I don't like to read books when they're so hyped up, because I feel like I go into them with really high expectations and then just end up being disappointed. Not the book's fault, by the way. That's one of the reasons why I didn't read the Broken trilogy or the Popular series. I know they're fantastic books, but I just can't read them when there's so much noise about it. Now, I'm really excited about these books, so hopefully I can read them. What? Yeah, I will. Hopefully I can get to them before the hype. But let's get into the video. There are like 20 books, so better get started. The first one is coming out on January 15th, and that is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. Now, I have been waiting for this book to come out ever since it was announced. This is the prequel to Angie Thomas's debut novel, The Hate You Give. So this is a young adult contemporary, and it is set 17 years before the events of The Hate You Give. And it follows the young Maverick Carter, who is the father of the protagonist in The Hate You Give. The story essentially deals with black boyhood and parenting, and I can't wait to read that as well, because Thug was one of the best books I've read. The next one is Hall of Smoke by H.M. Long. This is an adult fantasy about a warrior princess who can turn people into dust with a scream. And then she gets banished by this priesthood for disobeying her goddess's orders to kill somebody. So like I said, she is part of this priesthood called the Yangi priesthood, and while she's gone, raiders come and attack her village and obliterate the entire priesthood. Then she's thrust into this battle against old gods and the new, and I'm just really excited about it because it sounds right up my alley. The next one is coming out on January 26th, and that is Wings of Ebony by J.L. Look how pretty this cover is. Now, this is a YA fantasy series about a black teen named Rue who's living in Houston. So her mother gets shot dead on her doorstep, and then she's forced to leave her sister behind and go with the father that she never knew into this island called the Gizon, which is a hidden place with magic wielders. So now Rue is the only half human, half god there, and these magic wielders, what they do is they protect their magic at all costs, and they thrive on human suffering. This has a little bit of Black Panther vibes, because on the anniversary of her mother's death, Rue wants to go and see her sister, and she kind of leaves this island when you're not supposed to, when you're not allowed to by law. She basically escapes, and then she goes into the world. She finds out that black kids are forced into crime and violence, that her sister is in danger of falling sway to the same forces that took their mother's life. I love to read this because it represents people of color and different sexualities, because I feel like we've had enough of the straight white protagonist and their colored gay sidekick. So the next one is coming out on February 18th, and that is The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers. This is the fourth book to the Wayfarer series. I haven't read the series yet, so I don't know what it is about, and I don't really want to know. I want to go into the series knowing as little as possible. But it's essentially about a group of explorers following a journey through space in a patched up spaceship. That's enough for me to get into the series. I'm going to try to read the first book next year. This is another one that I'm really excited about, and it's coming out on February 25th. It is called The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. Now, this is a new series that's coming out called The God King Chronicles, and Black Coast is the first book. I'm going to read the blurb. This is about war dragons, armored kings, seafaring raiders, dangerous magic, and epic battle scenes. It's definitely giving off some Game of Thrones vibe, and I'm all about it. All these books look so good. The next one is coming out on March 2nd. There's two books coming out on March 2nd. The first one is The Conductor by Nicole Glover. This is an adult historical fiction novel about Hetty Rhodes, who is a former conductor in the Underground Railway, and now he solves crimes that the white authorities won't touch in post-Civil War Philadelphia with her husband Benji. And then one of their friends get killed, and Benji and Hetty, they set off to find answers for their murder. Now, I love a historical murder mystery, so the premise is very intriguing. The next one coming on the same day is Chain of Iron. This is the second book to the Last Hour trilogy by Cassandra Clare. She keeps popping out books I really need to catch up. It's another Shadowhunter book, but I'm still in Mortal Instruments and Infernal Devices, so I don't really want to know the summary because it might have spoilers. So I'll just put it here for your reference if you're interested. Okay, the next one is coming out on March 9th, and that is Actio A.G. Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the third book to the Brown Sisters trilogy. This is an adult romance that I read earlier this year. I read the first book, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I absolutely loved it. So much so that I went right into the second one, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which I didn't love as much. Not because the book was bad, but I think I read the two close to each other, so it felt like the story was a bit repetitive. So essentially, Eve Brown's story is about how chaotic she is, and then she ends up ruining this very expensive wedding. I'm assuming one of the sisters, I'm not sure. And the parents kind of draw the line there and forces her to find a job. And she's hired as a chef by basically this guy who is the exact opposite of her personality. So it's an enemies to lovers romance, and I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I did, however, like Chloe Brown, so I like Talia Hibbert's writing. So the next one is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, and this is coming out on March 23rd. So this is a North African inspired adult fantasy, and it is the first book of a new series called The Magic of the Lost. So this follows Maureen, who has been stolen as a child and is trained to kill and die for the Empire. Then she meets Luca, who is a rebel trying to get her uncle off the throne. This is a sapphic romance, and I am here for it. It's very, very hard to find sapphic romances in books, so I'm really excited for this one. The next one is The Helm of Midnight by Marina J. Losseter? I'm not sure. And that is coming out on April 13th. So this is the first book of a new adult series called 5 Penalties. Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Anyway, the premise sounds really fun, okay? It's about a group of criminals who unleashes the spirit of a serial killer who goes on killing again and terrorizes the city. And these criminals who unleash the spirit is tasked with basically putting him back. And I mean, a dead serial killer, need I say more? Next one is coming out on April 27th, and that is Dial A for Aunties by Zakiyah Sutanto. Oh yeah, this is the perfect blend of murder mystery / rom-com with a deep dive into the Chinese Indonesian culture. This is an adult contemporary, and I'm gonna read the blurb because it made me laugh. When Madeline Chan ends up accidentally killing her blind date, her meddlesome mother calls for her even more meddlesome aunties to help get rid of the body. Unfortunately, a dead body proves to be a lot more challenging to dispose of than one might anticipate, especially when it is accidentally shipped in a cake cooler to the over-the-top-billionaire wedding Maddie. Her ma and aunties are working at an island resort on the California coastline. But things go from inconvenient to downright torturous when Maddie's great college love and biggest heartbreak makes a surprise appearance amid the wedding chaos. That's all I need. I need the book. The next one is Arsenic and a Bordeaux by Mia Maranzala. This is coming out on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. This is an adult fantasy that follows Delilah, who is a Filipino, and she comes back home after a horrible breakup. So then she is tasked with saving this failing restaurant, and things go from bad to worse when this notoriously nasty food critic ends up dead right after a confrontation with Delilah. Obviously the cops turn to her as their prime suspect, and then there's this shady landlord who wants to kick the family to the curb and sell the storefront, and then Lila conducts her own investigation so that she can get to the bottom of everything. This sounds really nice. I really like a good mystery novel, so hopefully this won't disappoint. Alright, took a bit of a break Another book that's also coming out on May 4th is Project Hail Mary by Delilah, and this is the same author who wrote The Martian, which is again one of my favorite sci-fi novels. This follows Ryland Grace, who is the sole survivor with no memory of who he is, what happened to him or to his crew. It sounds really fun, and being stranded in space with no memory sounds horrifying, but really fun to read. The next one is coming out on June 1st, and that is One Last Stop by Casey Mcquisten. This is written by the wonderful author who brought us Red, White and Royal Blue. It was one of the best books I've read in 2020. I didn't read the whole blurb because again I want to be surprised with this book. So essentially it's about August, who moves into New York and realizes how shitty life in New York is and basically hates her life and the decision to move until she meets a woman and falls in love with her. The other one that's coming out on June 1st is The Other Black Girl by Zakiyah Delilah Harris. Again, this is an adult contemporary, and the summary is 26-year-old editorial assistant Neela Rogers is tired of being the only black employee at Wagner Books. Fed up with the isolation and microaggressions, she is thrilled when Harlem-born and bred Hazel starts working in the cubicle beside hers. They only just started comparing natural hair regimens, though when a string of uncomfortable events elevates Hazel to office darling and Nella is left in the dust. Then the notes begin to appear on Nella's desk. Leave Wagner now. It's hard to believe Hazel is behind these hostile messages. As Nella starts to spiral and obsess over the sinister forces at play, she soon realizes that there's a lot more at stake than just her career. This sounds a lot like Devil Wears Prada, which is one of the reasons I want to pick it up. The next one is The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is coming out on June 15th. This is the fourth book to the young adult mystery series, Truly Devious. Again, I haven't read the books and I plan to, so I'm not gonna see the summary for this, but here it is. Next one is coming out on July 6th, and that is Island Queen by Vanessa Riley, because it's a historical novel based on the true story of Dorothy Kirwan Thomas. She is a woman of color who rose from slavery to becoming one of the wealthiest and most powerful landowners in post-colonial West Indies. Slavery is one of the greatest tragedies in humankind, and you can never stop learning about it. I'm always educating myself about Black history because it was never something that was taught to us in school. And so to read a book about Black history and to read about a woman who buys her freedom, her mother and her sisters, is nothing short of inspiring. The next one is coming out on September 15th. That is We Are Not Like Them by Christine Pride and Joe Piazza. This is an adult contemporary about two best friends who have been close since childhood, and even though their life took like different paths as they grew up, they still remained really close friends, almost like sisters. One of them is the first black female news anchors in a big time news channel in Philadelphia, and the other one is a white woman who is married to a cop and finally gets pregnant. Now they remain really close friends, but then tragedy happens and their relationship is indelibly altered because of it. And you know by now, I love reading about relationships that aren't romantic because I think they are just as complicated and also equally precious as a romantic relationship. Because even with friendship, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes mutual respect. This is something I really want to read and want to buy this book, so hopefully Book Depository will be back by next September. Next one is coming out on September 21st, and that is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. This is the third and final book to the Jade War trilogy, and it is about the series is about the Cole family, who is one of the two crime syndicates that control the island of Kikon. It's the only place in the world that produces rare magical jade, which grants those with the right training and heritage superhuman abilities. This is a series that I really want to get to next year, so hopefully I can read the first two before the last one comes out. The next one is coming out somewhere in fall of 2021, and that is The Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. This is his first adult fantasy, and I have been following J. Kristoff's Instagram for like quite a while now, so I have been aware of this book, although it doesn't have an official date yet. He's been very open about the writing process, the world building, the vampire lore, and the publication, everything. And I'm just watching all of that. It actually makes me want to read it more because I really want to see how the story turns out. So it's about a fantasy world completely run by vampires because it's been 27 years since the last sunrise. I'm sure the book will explain how the world survives without the sun, and J. Kristoff has promised us that these vampires are more Dracula-like rather than Twilight Vampire Diaries style. They are ruthless, they are murderous creatures of the night. I'm actually holding him onto it because that's the only reason I would ever pick up a vampire book again. So that's it. I finished my smoothie. I finished the list. Hopefully this gave you some ideas as to what you want to read or pick up next year, and I will see you again in the next one tomorrow.